of course. You guys agree with me, right? This is an easy chapter. But trust me, so many questions have come from this easy chapter where most of us make a lot of mistakes. Anyways, it's meant to happen. That's what gives us this data that you have to concentrate more. Cool. So first let's start it, and I will try to point out at what to remember and which part is very, very important as we move on. Clear? So we know that reproductive health is the following chapter of human reproduction. So now the question arises, why reproductive health? Why do we require this chapter? So in spite of having this social stigmatism and social shyness, and we call that we don't usually talk about it very vocal when it especially comes to the unit of reproduction, correct, right? But reproductive health plays a pivotal role in all our lives, and it is essential for a healthier society as well as individuality. Now, in this chapter, while studying this chapter, we study a lot of impacts uh, and lot of information that will help us for the society. Okay, let us say. So we understand the problems of social problems like overpopulation, and we understand that what happens with respect to sexually transmitted diseases. Why sexually transmitted diseases are prime focus in spite of having so many we have so many list of diseases, correct, right? We have chronic diseases, non-chronic diseases like infectious diseases, okay, non-infectious diseases, but still we pinpoint towards sexually transmitted diseases. Why? That is another question. And the third one is it gives us a very important knowledge that is required for this. When I say reproductive health, it is a totally personal thing. And when it is a personal thing, we know that we don't feel very much easy to talk about it or to discuss about it vocally with our friends or the families or anybody. So having this knowledge will give you a confidence, and you will not go into a panic mode, or you will not commit some unwanted mistakes. Okay, and this is what it is. So let's see. So whenever we see a society without having a proper reproductive health, okay, so we see that disasters can happen. If you see the post independence period, and then if you track it all the way till 1970s, our country would have done much better, I feel, if we had a proper education and proper planning with respect to reproductive health. Even though in 1950s only we realized that this is going out of hand, and our population is reproducing at a very exponential rate. So introducing Hum Do Hamare Do back in 1950s, even though in 2024 we are one of the highest populated countries in the world. So with population has come a lot of problems along with it, correct, right? So let's see. So the government, what happens is they take an initiative to make sure that we have a program where it is called as RCH program, Reproductive and Child Health Program. So in this program, what happens is they educate people with respect to so many aspects. And the first thing they do is to introduce a family planning bill. So in this family planning, what happens? They wanted to encourage people to have a smaller families, and this bill was introduced in 1951. Guess what? Our country is not been well regarded for a very long period of time as the forefront countries for taking decisions with respect to science, technology, or something like that. It's a colonial or a Western mindset, I can tell. So you can see that India was the first country to recognize these problems of overpopulation, and then they started educating and encouraging the populations of having, a smaller families. So this led to a proper mitigation of controlling a population to a very large extent, I can tell. Clear? Chalo. Now tell me, why do we have to be introducing this population bills? First of all, we make aware of the people with respect to reproductive health as well as reproduction aspects. Okay, as well as we need a reproductively healthy societies. For an example, if you see HIV, if you take an example, HIV as an example, if you take HIV can spread, okay, only through sexual contact or through the exchange of body fluids. So this is the only two ways. It's not like our COVID, it's not like your common cough. So it has to be a physical contact in some form. So even though it started in somewhere in the South Africa, and then the very first reports was gathered in USA. Within in 1980s it started. So you see that within a 40-year period of time, our country is one of the leading populations to have the highest number of HIV patients. Now, this is not something we can rejoice. This is something which is very, very sad when it comes to the people who suffer from it. So this is what it is. We have to make sure that our population is aware of the ill effects of having a sexually transmitted diseases. First thing. Second thing is having a healthier reproductive population. Now, the next generations that come across should be healthy, and the people who are in the reproductive state, okay, when they marry, they have to make sure that they don't have the problem of okay, I'm not able to reproduce, so I cannot have any other chance at all. So that is not the way. So giving them an idea that, look, there is a high amount of possibility that you can be reproductive incapable, but you can also be a dad or a mom. So this will give them an added advantage and a healthier and happier families as well. Correct, right? Chalo. Now, when it comes to population explosion and childbirth, so that is our first topic. Tell me, this is your first question. High increase in human population is due to what causes? The first question is increase in average lifespan, better medical facilities, decrease in death rate, and all of this. What do you say, guys? What do you,
All of this.
all of this? All of you say all of this? Agree? So Sneha says it's 3. Okay. Okay. Cool. No problem. The thing is, let's say that the answer is all of this, definitely. Okay, all of this is the answer. Decrease in death rate is one of the aspects. Increase in average lifespan. How does an increase in average lifespan happen? So the question is, why does lifespan decreases? First of all, the lifespan of an individual decreases when they don't have proper nutrition, when they don't have proper work environments, correct, right? And then when they don't have proper medical facilities. So these are 3 possible and probable causes for why the lifespan of a society decreases, correct, right? And then the next phase comes where is a congenital diseases, whether the population is having any genetic disorders or not. Now take an example as India, our country as an example. Now you don't see that we have a huge congenital problem where majority of the population is suffering from some genetics or genetic related diseases. So we are healthier population. The reason why we might go or why we might end up having a less lifespan is when we don't have vaccinations properly, when we don't have proper surgeries or medical institutions or technology to support it. Correct, right? So increase in average lifespan is a very good matter with respect to population increase. So with this increase in the lifespan gives high, what do you tell, high period for the reproductively active. For example, if a lifespan of an individual is 70 years, so the amount of his reproductively active phase will become higher. Imagine if his lifespan is 50 years, what would happen? So his number of years where he would be reproductively active would be lesser. Correct, right? And then comes when he'll marry, when he'll make kids, and all that things. So that is another aspect. Now, better medical facilities, as we just spoke about it, and decrease in death rate. So decrease in death rate, all of them are interlinked with each other. That's why the option is all of the above. Clear, people? Now, what happens? What are the consequences of population explosion? So this is a very generic question because we might have written a lot of essays in our primary classes as well. Correct, right? We know what are the consequences of population explosion. So let's revisit. So whenever we come across a question, like for example, in a society, it is suffering from unemployment or poverty, or what is IMR? It is infant mortality rate. Before the child reaches the age of 5 years, if it dies, okay, then it is called as mortal child. The child has not reached the it has not crossed that phase of 5 years. So if they die within 5 years, then the infant mortality rate, what will happen? It will increase. So that is why IMR also should decrease. Now, why IMR? IMR also is interdependent on the social well-being as well as the nutrition and the better medical facilities, etc. and poverty as well. Anyways, so IMR is infant mortality rate and child mortality rate. Next one, increased crime rate, of course, Now you can imagine when you have a very large city like Delhi or Bangalore or something like that. Now, what is the amount of police force we have? What is the amount of law enforcement we have? Do we have so many law enforcement officials that for every four people we have one police officer? No, right? We cannot have that monitoring system. So then what happens? The society goes into crime state. Next one, you have a distributed social fabric. What is the meaning of distributed social fabric? It says that, for example, you have very wealthy, middle class, lower middle class, upper middle class. Then you have lower class, very lower class, very poor, homeless. So you can completely stretch and divide the society into as many divisions as possible. Especially in our country, you can go on and group the peoples based on the social fabric. Correct, right? Why this happened? Not everybody is getting equal opportunity. Not everybody, even though they're capable enough, is able to get an opportunity to make a living. Reason? Too much competition. Anyways, next we have burden on natural resources. Of course, we have like huge concrete jungles, huge cities. We have been fragmenting the forests. So that is causing, you can see the recent newses with climate change and floods and landslides, etc. That's been happening. And next one is deforestation. That's what we spoke about. Increased waste generation. We are producing more waste than we can recycle them. And then we have is the population. Okay, sorry, pollution. So these are some of the consequences of population, right? We can just use it as a mind map and write a very beautiful essay on it, but we are not here for the essay. Anyways, let's look at some of the facts that we already know. Okay, so let's see. In the 1990s, what happened? The population was around 2 billion. Okay, around 2000. Okay, what do we have? It rocketed around 6 billion. Now, this is not India's population, this is the global population. Clear? So, in a very short period of time, okay, we have in 100 years, okay, not in 100, yeah, in 100 years, my math is not mathing. If it's not mathing, please let me know. In 100 years, probably we increase around 6 billion population. So 4 billion increase, it's not a natural number. It's not normal actually. Now let us take our country. Our country after the independence, I mean like our population was around 350 million individuals were there, and then it crossed around 1 billion by 2000. Now, who do we thank? To all our grandparents and all our parents. Okay, they've been exceptional. So I'm sorry, but anyways, the population exploded. So for what happens? For every sixth person, okay, in the world is an Indian. Now, guess what? For every fourth person, there is one Indian. So we rule the world, of course. So our population increases. Manpower is really good for economy and to control the global to be in the control in a global platform. But what happens at home is very disastrous. Anyways, according to 2001 census, what does it say? It's a very important point, guys. So these numbers might look very familiar for you. Let me revisit. These numbers might look very familiar. Which one? It might be like 2 billion. Okay, it's okay, 2 billion. And then you go 6 billion. Okay, it's nothing big deal. But remember, just think about 10 months later, would you be remembering these numbers? So please make sure that you have sticky notes or somewhere where these numbers are highlighted. Okay, because some of the questions, I have seen that there is a pattern of these questions appearing where they have asked about the global population in the 1900s was how much. So they don't give in billions, they give in millions. Okay, sometimes they don't give in millions. Yeah, they mostly give in millions. So convert billions into millions and write that value as well. Okay. Same goes with the next one as well. Okay. Clear? Chalo. So now what happens according to 2001 census, what they will tell? What was the growth rate? What was the population growth rate that was predicted in 2000? In 2000, we were having around 1.7% of the growth rate. So what does it mean? For every year, okay, among 1000 individuals, 17 individuals were born. Okay. So this is the rate at which our country was growing. Of course, in 2001, they predicted that we would be doubling our population. Correct, right? So they predicted that we will double. What was the population in 2000, guys? 2000, we were 1 billion. What is the population in 2024? Almost 2 billion. Correct? Did we double? Of course. Faster. Sure. Anyways, Now, what happened? What are the reasons why our population explosion was very, very high? As we just saw the question. So, one is increased health facilities and better conditions of living. So, we are the only country, I can tell it's one of the countries to really, really bring out a very large population out of poverty in a very short period of time. It is not a joke at all. Even though we find our country very lagging and very slow, we are not actually slow on a global scale. If you see that the amount of people who are brought out of the poverty, the numbers are very, very staggering, and it's happening at a very faster rate. And we have the best medical facilities in the entire globe. So you might tell that, sir, the technology in other countries are very, very high. Yeah, the technology is very, very high, but the expense of medical facilities is too high too. So a normal person cannot afford, you can just go to any corner of our country and then get a very good medical checkup. They can diagnose you. We have diagnostic centers. They can diagnose and tell you what disease you have, and then they can provide you with antibiotics or vaccinations or antivenoms whenever it is required. Including our primary health cares have parturition centers where you have a delivery centers where women can easily go to a common government hospitals and give birth to a baby without having any complications. This does not happen in majority of the developed countries, and it's very, very expensive. So that's why we have to take pride in the medical facilities that we have. Anyways, so there is a rapid decline in the death rate as well. So these are the added reasons: better medical facilities, better food, better living conditions, better opportunities. So they all, what will happen? They'll enrich the families. That will lead to less death rate, and then you have maternal mortality rate. See how sad it was. People used to lose their life during the course of pregnancy. Why? Excessive malnourished. So do you think that it does not happen before? It has happened before. We had Great Bengal famine. Okay, and there was a time during the British rule where we were snatched out of our food. People would have to just grow everything and give to British, and they were not getting anything in the return. So at that point, people went into a huge starvation period. It was a very hard time. At this time, we have lost a lot of mothers who have died during the course of pregnancy or during the delivery time, just because they did not have enough nourishment and nutrition to bear the pregnancy. So that also decreased. Mortality rates decreases. And then you have infant mortality rate. Again, why does infant mortality rate? Why do we vaccinate babies? Okay, babies were dying a lot through cholera. Cholera was one of the major causes why babies, and TB was another cause why babies were not coming to the age of 5. Okay, and then you have malnourishment. All these things were happening. Got it right. And then we have increased number of people with respect to reproducing age. Now listen, you will come across one of the chapters where we have ecology. So in ecology, when we look at the population factors, you look at a pyramid called as age related pyramid. So in age related pyramid, whenever we have a pyramid where you have a highest number of population, you can see the red ink. Okay, very large amount of population that is in the aging. Okay, they are all old people who have crossed, let us say, reproductive phase, and they're going in the aging phase. Okay, this is aged. Next, we have a little less number of reproductively active people. And then we have pre-reproductive, that is children. We have three, we have next small group, lesser than the reproductive people. And then we have the pre-reproductive. Now, what happens to this population? This population remains stable. So they don't have the population explosion. They don't have the population decline. Their population actually remains constant. Okay, this is case number one. And the case number two, what we come across is when you look at, okay, when you look at a large amount of people who are dying and a large and a very less amount of people who are actually who are very in a let's say pre-reproductive phase, and then we have a very little population, very little population when it, sorry, it's all went, okay, very large population who are in the aging phase, and then very less population, let's say very less population we have in the reproductive phase, and then even lesser when it comes to, or even more when it comes to child or children or pre-reproductive phase. Now here what happens, the population goes under declining phase. Why? Because the number of people who are born are very very less compared to the people number of very very less compared to the people who are dying. So this is another thing. Now come to India. Even when you see our country, we have a staggering more than I can say 55% of the population who are at the reproductive phase. You get my point? We are reproductive. 55% of the population, around 55 to 60% of the population are in reproductive phase. That means what? The number of people dying to the number of people who are born and coming to the reproductive phase are very very less, but the people who are reproducing are very very high. So that's why we are a growing population. Get my point? We are growing population. On the other hand, we have China. So what is happening in China? Even though China is a very very big country, and even though for most of the time we are competing with China, almost we cross them. Okay, so even though they are a very high population, but China is considered as a dying population. Why it is considered as a dying population? Because the number of people, the highest number of population of the people, they belong to post reproductive phase. Okay, and the people who are reproductively active are very very less. So that is one among the thing. Okay, so let's see. Now, when it comes to control measures of the population, okay, when it comes to the when it comes to the control measures of the population, what should we do? Of course, people think that it is not affecting. And this has happened in the past. Now it's not like that. People are very, very aware, very, very conscious. They understand the society, they understand the economy, they understand the money flow. But back then it was not like that. There were no jobs, so they were not aware of things, they were not educated properly. At that point, our government had to take some measures. So some of the measures were like, so you motivate the people to have smaller families and then use contraceptive methods which are encourageable, which are safe, and which are not bad, you know, in any form. Next one, make people use slogans like, some of the slogans were like get into your ears very fast, and then they try to understand it even though they don't understand the whole concept. You can't give a whole speech about overpopulation to old individuals. Back in the days when people were not having a very good education, or even a primary education, you think that they would understand the whole speech about what population could lead to? Not many people would understand. So a large majority would not understand. So to make them understand, we have to come with posters, pamphlets, okay, and then announcements in the radio, in the TV, maybe the short announcements, or using slogans like hum do hamare do, okay, or we too, ours too. And then one child norm, okay, encourage the people to adapt one child norm, give them counseling and tell them, see, you go for one child, provide everything to the child, and then make this child more better and successful with education and infrastructure and everything. So people started understanding. And then, first of all, in a very recent case, what happened? A marriageable age was raised from it was child marriages were happening. Correct, right? Very recently, in 90s, I can tell 1990s still, we were having even certain cases. Very in 2010s also we could see some cases of child marriage. Now it became a very strict rule that a marriage is valid only when the female is of 18 years old and then the male is of 21 years old. Okay, with marriage also comes with government benefits, students. Okay, so that is one thing. Give me a second. Let me check on you guys. Okay, good. Okay, next one is contraceptives. Now, the next aspect of telling people how to control population, first aspect we saw that full screen not visible. I think that is a whole screen. One second, let me check. Yeah, that's a whole screen, guys. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Let's go further. So next one is contraceptives. First one is telling the people, educating the people to have smaller families. And then next the question comes, see, one of the most powerful drives that we have with respect to our senses is sexual drive. It's very, very obvious, okay, to see in a biological sense. So now, when we tell that people to have less kids or prevent having kids, next they'll tell how. The how comes with contraceptives. So what is a contraceptive? Anything that prevents unwanted pregnancy is called as a contraceptive. So what would be an ideal contraceptive? So this was another question. What are the key what are the key characteristics of, or what are the most important characteristics of an ideal contraceptive? That there comes choose the correct answer. Okay, you give 1, 2, 3, 4 with the same option. For example, user friendly, easily available, okay, effective, reversible. Okay, these are all in the coming in the same statement. So each of this word is very, very important. Remember, while you read the question, you might come across easily available, okay, or you might come across effective. User friendly also might be there, but it will be non-reversible. So this option becomes what? Wrong, right? So that is why you observe the options. I know that you know the concept, but you read the question very carefully and give time to read properly. Then you get the answer right. Next one. As I say, it should be user friendly, easily available, effective, and then it should be reversible, no or least side effects. Okay. And obviously, it should not interfere in the sexual drive. Okay, which is quite important. And so that the act of pleasure is experienced for both users. Okay, here is a question. Now this is IUD, guys. Okay, this is IUD. Tell me, which of the following is a correct statement? IUDs once inserted need not be replaced. IUDs are generally inserted by the user herself. IUDs increases phagocytosis of the sperms in the uterus. IUDs suppress gametogenesis. Which is it correct? Which one do you think is correct? Third one. It increases phagocytosis of the sperms in the uterus. 2. Someone say IUDs are generally inserted by the user herself. No, Prem. It's wrong. 2 or 3. Okay. Now we have only one option. Chalo. Now, see, IUDs once inserted need not be replaced. Do you think so? Do you think so? Do we need this IUDs? Yeah. So it should be replaced. Yes. It should be replaced, but it will be used for a very long period of time. Correct? Next one. IUDs are generally inserted by the user herself. No, definitely not possible, because it's intrauterine devices and it requires a professional. It requires a nurse, a senior nurse, or a doctor for the insertion. Okay, it definitely requires a medical practitioner to do that. Next one. IUDs increases phagocytosis of the sperms in the uterus. Yes, one of the functions of the IUDs is to increases phagocytosis. Now, guys, can you tell me what is the meaning of phagocytosis? Tell me. Tell me what is phagocytosis? Okay, while you write the answer, let's see the fourth option. IUD suppresses gametogenesis. Now, this is not happening. Okay, so the correct option is 3. What is phagocytosis, guys? You can speak if you can, or if you can text, you can text. What is phagocytosis? Come again. Okay, you can text. Okay, I'll wait for your answer. Anyways, you know the concept mostly. Okay, someone has an answer. Let me check once. So one cell engulfs the other. One cell engulfs the other. Okay. Have you guys heard about endocytosis and exocytosis? Guys, Maheshwari Reddy, please mute. Good. Okay, somebody really asking me. You only tell what is phagocytosis. Yeah, fight against foreign particles. Okay, chalo. There is a very nice concept about what is endocytosis, exocytosis, and phagocytosis. Okay, now uh, when you have to swallow bulk, okay, when the cell swallows in a bulk, that is called as endocytosis. Okay, that comes with the phagocytosis. You get my point. Exocytosis is where the cell vomiting takes place, waste materials are done. Now phagocytosis happens how? Now how does the IUDs tell the cells to go and eat something? So that happens with the decrease in sperm motility. See, what happens is the sperms have a very challenging job. The job is they have to travel a very large distance and they have a very fixed time for it. And third one, all of this is, let's say, depends upon how fast they go. So this is called as motility. When the sperm motility decreases, naturally what happens is the birth canal, especially the vaginal walls of the female, they are very well protected. Why? Because it has to be protected, because you know that in our nose also we have hairs and mucosal lining. In our mouth also we have saliva, and then we have the mucus. Okay, you can see that wherever there is an external medium in which our body interacts, there is hell lot of protection. Okay, too much protection, I can tell. So similarly, even the lining of the vagina also have a lot of protection, and the protection is the sperms actually have to go through this huge macrophages, okay, which are like amoeba like cells which regularly eat them. I'm not telling that, sir, without IUDs don't they eat? They do eat. They are always competing for eating these sperm cells. Now imagine when the sperm cells cannot escape or the sperm cells cannot swim any further because of the decreased motility. Now what will happen? They undergo phagocytosis indirectly. Correct, right? So this is another thing. See, with the phagocytosis comes with another concept that is called as sperm motility. Correct, right? So two concepts interlinked. Anyways, now what are the different types of contraceptives we have? We have natural or traditional methods of contraceptives. Then we have barrier methods of contraceptives. Then we have intrauterine devices, oral contraceptives, injectables, and surgical methods. Let's see one by one and what they are. So when we talk about natural or traditional methods of contraceptives, okay, now this is very important. Because of the names, I know. Please remember, okay, when we practice the questions, you'll understand, okay, this is the type of questions it will come. But first, let's go through the concept. So first one we have is periodic abstinence. What is periodic abstinence? We avoid, coitus in the fertile period of the fertile period of the female. See, in menstruation, in the menstrual cycle of the females, what happens is from day 10 to day 17, it is called as a fertile period. Why it is called as a fertile period? Because at this point there is a high chances that the egg is released from the fallopian, like the egg is released from the ova, and it is readily waiting for the arrival of the sperm in the fallopian tube. Now with this coitus, what happens is, now at this stage, every part of the female body is really waiting for the sperm to go and fertilize the egg. That gives encouragement for the movement of the sperms, first thing. Through where? Through the vagina and the cervix and the uterus. So they all are encouraging the sperms to reach the destination. So that makes that the sperm motility is very high. Second thing, cervical mucus or the cervix is in a very good condition to allow the sperms entry. Okay, and eventually what will happen? It will lead to the process of fertilization. That's why what happens? We either avoid coitus or we interrupt the coitus. Next one, what is interruption? Now, the almost during the insemination, if the male withdraws his genitals and then he ejaculates it outside instead of ejaculating inside the female genital tract, so that is called as coitus interruptus. You get my point? Now, the coitus interruptus becomes a very challenging thing. Why? Because it's not certain. Not for some people, for some women, let's say that their periods are happening every 40 days. They don't have a proper cycle in their periods. Now, would you be certain that it's only day 10 to day 17? How do you calculate it? Some women have early periods. Maybe within 20 days or 25 days, they are trying to ovulate. Now, what is happening? Now the question mark comes. Is it very reliable? Sometimes, not every time. Okay, this is one thing. Second thing, what happens with respect to yeah, coitus interruptus. Sorry, I spoke about coitus interruptus as well as periodic abstinence. Anyways, now when you look at the coitus interruptus, you have another challenge. What is another challenge? See, when we go for the first coitus and then the person actually interrupts the coitus and ejaculates outside. Now, when it go for the second time, okay, when the second mating happens, now let us say that this person thinks that okay, I don't have any more of the male gametes left, and it is all okay. Now I can just go for the second mating. Now this when the same time when they go for the second time, now the male have something called as bulbourethral glands, right? So the role of bulbourethral glands is it produces an ejaculate, and the ejaculate of the bulbourethral gland is also called as what? Pre-ejaculate. So what does it do is its job is to wash the ducts of the sperm duct is there, no, or your urethra. So it has to wash it before the arrival of the sperms. Okay. Now during this bulbourethral ejaculation, whatever the remnant sperms or the remaining sperms that were left there will eventually get washed by these bulbourethral ejaculations and end up in the female genital tract. Now the person who thinks that okay, I did the coitus interruptus, but unfortunately it led to pregnancy. How? The answer is the culprit bulbourethral glands. So bulbourethral ejaculations is also called as pre-ejaculate. So that is the major cause for accidental pregnancies. You understand, right? First one is what? Coitus interruptus. Periodic abstinence. What do we do in periodic abstinence? Totally avoid the coitus. Between what days? Day 10 to day 17. Why don't we take it very certain? Because some people will not have very, very regularized periods. First thing. Second thing. Next one is coitus interruptus. What is coitus interruptus? Withdrawal of penis during the coitus or ejaculation from the female genital tract. Now, why this is not reliable? This is not reliable because there might be accidental pregnancies during the what do you tell? A pre-ejaculate or the secondary ejaculate by the bulbourethral glands. Got it, no, guys? Third one is your lactational amenorrhea. Now, the lactational amenorrhea is a very, very biological thing. During this, what happens when the woman is breastfeeding, okay, after giving birth, until and unless there is milk produced by her breast, she will not be fertile. Why she will not be fertile, or why the fertilization will not happen? First thing is first, during the lactational amenorrhea, one of the major changes what you can see is the development of the cervical mucus. Okay, you guys understand what is the cervix, right? So we know that there is vagina, sorry, there is vagina, and then up the vagina you have, hold on. So we have, this is the vagina, and then through the vagina comes the narrow passage called as cervix. So this portion, the cervical portion, what happens? It produces a mucus called as cervical mucus. So during what happens? See, day 10 to day 17, what we have here, fertile period, the cervical mucus becomes very thin. Okay, very, very thin. So this will open up for the passage of the sperms. Now, what happens after day 17? Now, when the egg is not fertilized, the whole things becomes disappointed. Oh, again, we miss the becoming pregnant because body is waiting to become pregnant. Now, the egg gets rejected, the egg gets washed down. Okay, now here what happens? Listen, the cervical mucus starts becoming thick. So when it starts becoming thick after day 17, if you see in day 23 or day 24, there is no way that the sperms can almost reach the fallopian tube. It's not possible for them. Even though there is no egg is one reason, there is hardly any way for the sperm to reach the fallopian tube. Reason? The cervical mucus. So this is one thing. Got it? The same thing happens even in lactational amenorrhea. What is happening here? The passage, the thin passage that is present in the cervix, okay, is covered by a very thick mucus. So when it is covered by a very thick mucus, okay, it will not allow the passage of sperms to go through. Got it? And the second one is obviously she will not ovulate. Understood? No? Got it? So these are the two reasons why this is the best one. Lactational amenorrhea is very, very reliable, and she will never get pregnant during this phase. Is it clear? Are you people understanding? Anyways, you know these concepts. But do you have any doubts anyways? No? Hmm. Okay, good. Good, good, guys. Thanks for the response. Okay. Were you guys in the weekend class? Sunday? Were you present in the weekend class? Yeah. Okay, okay. Cool, no problem. The reason is I would be happy if you didn't attend the weekend class, only the last one, because it was not so effective just because of the camera problems. Now I hope it's going okay. Okay. Chalo. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Even we had the same issue. We had the issue with the screen and camera. So that became a big problem in the whole session. Anyways, let's go back. Let's go back to the topic. Next we have is the barrier methods. Okay. So we have barrier methods, and in barrier methods, we have the physical prevention of, we physically prevent the sperms from leaking into the female genital tract, as simple as that. Or we physically avoid the meeting of the sperm and the ovum. That is their whole concept. So in barrier methods, what do we have? We have condoms. What are they made up of? They are made up of rubber and latex. Okay. So what do? They cover either the female penis or the vagina of the male penis and the female vagina, okay, until the cervix. So now what they do is the ejaculate is never allowed to get into the genital tract. That's it. Now in condoms, the famous brand that is produced by the government to encourage people not to worry about the cost, not to worry about the shyness, not to worry about the availability. What happened? They introduced something called as Nirod. Okay. So the male condoms, what they did was they started introducing in every other public places like railway stations, bus stops, public health, primary health cares. Okay, for a very very cheap price or no price at all, so that they use it to prevent any unwanted pregnancies. Chalo. Now what happens is condoms have been very very effective for contraceptives for a lot of reasons. First thing is, of course, it prevents STDs and AIDS. This is the very, very, very 100% good thing about condoms. Why? Because forget about the pregnancy. I know we can't forget about the pregnancy, but we can't keep it as a secondary aspect. But STDs, the sexually transmitted diseases, and AIDS, this is something very, very big. Once some of the diseases once concepted, it cannot be cured. They have certain very deadly diseases. We'll discuss about them. So it's not okay to have such carriers during the sexual intercourse. So condoms have been one of the most successful ones to prevent a large amount of STDs and AIDS, publicly. So we have to give credit for that. Next one is it is easily disposable, and it does not need any medical expertise. You need not go to the doctor or nothing. It is self completely. It is completely personalized, and you can maintain your privacy, as well as the sexual drive is also not much affected with the use of condoms. Okay, shalom. Next one is diaphragms, cervical caps, and volts. So basically, they're made up of rubber, and it is used by the females. So now they use it through the genital tract all the way till the cervix, and they block the cervix. So once they block the cervix, they usually completely physically what do you tell, they block the entry of the sperms. Now what they do is they have to periodically remove it, sterilize it in a hot water, and reinsert it. So this process has to happen frequently. So this is one thing. Now they are also quite effective when considering everything, like let's say that when you see cervical caps and walls, and as well as the diaphragms, why this is quite preferable and not preferable. See, if you see that for the couples, okay, for the couples, the reduction in losing the sexual drive is not there. So the sexual drive remains the same, and they can happily also not worry about getting pregnant. So that is one very, very good advantage. Second, not so good advantage is they don't prevent STDs, you see, because there is a physical contact between male and female. There is a physical contact between the male fluids and the female fluids. So this will definitely lead to what? It will lead to STDs again, sexually transmitted diseases. They're very, very good for preventing pregnancies and promoting high sexual drive, but they are not good with respect to prevention of your STDs. Okay. Second thing is they're very, very economical and they're very reusable for the people. Okay. Next one, we have spermicidal creams, jellies, and foams. So they are also act like a barrier. Okay, by killing the efficiency or effectiveness of the sperms. Okay, they are also applied by the females or over the genital tract or within the genital tract. They use it. Okay, and then it works. Anyways, next one we have is IUDs. Intrauterine devices is one of the key topics in this chapter where most of the questions come. Why? First thing is they ask you the examples for medicated IUDs, okay, non-medicated IUDs, hormone releasing IUDs, etc. So when they ask you examples, there is a very, very high chances. Some of you might get confused. Some of you might write it really, really well. So anyways, we see that what is IUDs? Intrauterine devices. So we know that it is inserted into the uterus and it goes almost near the fallopians, and it will you can see here, this will go near the fallopian tube and it comes down all the way till the uterus. This will be near the cervical region, and two nylon strings will drop down near the vagina so that the female can check its position if it's in the right place. So anyways, if you look at the IUDs, now we have different types of IUDs. First we have is non-medicated IUDs. In non-medicated IUDs, remember the examples, it is Lippers loop. Okay, it is Lippers loop. The role is to prevent the sperm from entering. That's it. Next one you have is copper releasing IUDs. Copper releasing IUDs, the example is CUT, CU7 and multiload 375. Hormone releasing IUDs, we have progesterate, and then we have LNG20. Guys, LNG20 stands for levonorgestrel. Okay, levonorgestrel is again a hormone. Basically, the production of the hormones will make the uterus very unsuitable for the implantation to happen. Got it right? Same happens with progesterate. What does progesterate do? See, uterus lining is very, very important. Uterus lining is one of the key parts where it determines the pregnancy. Now, when the uterus is not well developed, when the uteral mucus is not so encouraging for the implantation to happen, so now what happens is the pregnancy will not happen, the implantation will not happen. Why? Because you know that it's just like a seed. If you see the human reproduction chapter, I wish we could have discussed about at least pregnancy and implantation. It's a very nice topic to discuss about. Okay, how the baby development of baby takes place, how the implantation takes place, and all that. But anyways, hopefully we get a chance. So if you see that the endometrium, if it is not well developed, okay, even though the egg settles there, it is not so well enough that it can promote the development of tissues, integration of blood vessels, and the development of placenta. So it does not happen. So that's what happens with respect to hormone releasing IUDs. What happens with copper releasing IUDs? Copper releasing IUDs, they actually, I told you, dual role is there. One role, what they do is they decrease the motility of the sperms. Motility is ability of the sperm to move. So when they reduce its ability of the sperm to move, what happens when they can't move? You know that it is an enemy territory. I told you, the genital tract of the female is not so friendly. They are always protecting itself from the pathogens. The sperm is a pathogen. It's coming from outside. It does not care whether it is human or something, whether it is a bacteria or a sperm. You don't know. If it recognizes it is outside, it undergoes phagocytosis. So that's what the copper releasing IUDs do. What do? They suppress the sperm motility, and next one is they increase the phagocytosis. Okay, especially with respect to copper releasing IUDs. So please make sure that you know the examples and you know the types of IUDs. Okay, and please don't tell copper releasing. For let's say that a multi-load 375 is an example for hormone releasing IUDs. Now you're thinking, okay, it releases something. We know that it releases something. And some of you might confuse it with copper. Some of you might think that, okay, copper might be acting like a hormone or something like that. And then you might go for, yes, it is, a hormone releasing IUDs. No, It is wrong. So it is progesterate and LNG20. It is hormone releasing. Lippers loop is non-medicated. Copper releasing is CU7, CUT and multiload 375. Okay, is it clear? Chalo. So obviously I told you that these IUDs require the experts and the nurse, especially the nurse and then a senior nurse, or you have any medical practitioner. So they are, or they are the ones who can help the people to get the IUDs inside them. Okay, so that is one thing. And it is one of the most chosen and most effective contraceptive, we can tell, especially for the couples. Why? Because it is very, very long lasting and it is very, very effective. When it comes to condoms, there is a chance of puncture, there is a chance of tear, etc. When it comes to the cervical caps walls, there is a chances of disposition or slipping, etc. But here it does not happen like that. It starts from the beginning itself, and it will control it in a very, in numerous stages. So that's why it's been one of the most chosen, most effective, most reliable contraceptives, especially for couples. Okay, for non-couples, definitely no. Why? Because again, it does not prevent what? STDs. STDs are also our important topic along with prevention of pregnancy. Okay, so that is another thing. Clear, no? So that's it. We're running out of time also. Okay, we have to talk about oral pills. Okay, oral pills, and one more thing I think is there. Surgical methods. Anyways, we'll take up in the next session, guys. Okay, I hope that's fine with you. Yes, no? And you guys have any doubts? And before you leave, this is our first class, especially Enable Plus. Uh, every class you have to do this. It's a strict norm. If you don't do this, that means that I have not taken the class, guys. Okay. So I always require your feedback. Please give your feedback. Okay. So each class we improve and improve. Okay. And thank you very much for attending today's session. And I will see you tomorrow. And we hopefully will solve more questions. Okay. Have a nice day.